Ready.
Three, two, one. Okay, we are here with Jay and Bobby Dyson, or I'm here. we are here together. I'm
Yeah.
so glad that they took me up on their offer to interview them. Somebody actually, some of my subscribers actually recommended your channel to me, and that's how I became familiar with their stuff. So. Anyway, so I always start out with the first question and then it just kind of flows. And that question is, have you always been on the Democratic plantation? And if not, when did you decide to leave? Or if so,
I came
when did
I came off the plantation before it was even fashionable
you...
to
Oh,
come off the plantation back in the 80s, and Bobby even earlier than me.
oh
Uh,
wow.
and we didn't call it coming off the plantation back then. That's not the way it was termed. It's pretty much after looking at what that party was all about, we just decided we can't do that anymore with the Democrat Party. Not really, not really looking at, hey, I'm walking away from the plantation, but we didn't term it like that. We didn't define it like that because I walked away in the early '80s when I was in the military. I had started to see the differences between the way Republicans and Democrats looked at the military. And then I had some history behind me because of the fact of how soldiers were treated by the left when they came back from Vietnam. I'm a teenager during that time, and our oldest brother went to Vietnam
Uh-huh.
in 1969. And when he came back, I remember him saying that the first thing he did was come out of that uniform when he got back because of the way soldiers were being treated when
Wow.
they got back. And
Wow.
so that always stuck with me. And then when
Wow.
I was in the military myself, then I saw the differences between how the Democrats and the Republicans treated the military. It became really easy for me to start looking at the Democrats, and then it really became easy for me to walk away.
I want to know. I mean, I can only imagine, but what specifically, like, how did the Democrats treat the military as opposed to the Republicans? Like,
We
what?
we Whenever we had a Democrat administration, I went in when Jimmy Carter was president during that administration. We always had to fight for resources, the tools we needed to go out and wage war, to um, be able to take care of our assets. I was a helicopter mechanic, so we were always behind the eight ball when it came to money to operate. And then when Reagan came in, he came in and, hey, anything you guys want, it's yours. We're going to
Mm.
strengthen and grow the military. So we saw the differences. Never saw a raise during Carter's administration. Never saw a raise for the military. And when Reagan came in, we were getting raises every year. We were getting the tools and the resources that we needed
Yeah.
that we weren't getting when Carter was in office. And then you hear how the senators and the congressmen on the Democrat side were always bashing the military. We were ineffective. We were just a bunch of hawks out there just wanting to wage war. It was like we were the enemy. And then you
And
would,
you're risking your life.
yeah, every day,
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
And they would always pay more respect to foreign militaries than they would to our
Oh
own
wow.
military.
Oh,
So,
how insulting.
yeah, so to wake up on a daily basis, pretty much, and hear them trash the military, man, that made it real easy for me. You know what? I'm done with you guys. I'm done with
What branch did you serve in?
Air Force.
Oh, thank you
Yeah.
for your service. How about
Yeah.
Bobby? Did you
No,
serve?
No, I'm in the military.
I tried to get it to go in, but he would never go in.
You know what? I must admit, and I'm so glad I didn't go down this road. I kind of almost fell into that trap because, just being in school, right? You're kind of taught, oh, America's horrible and they do horrible things, and I was going down that road, and what really kind of snapped me out of it was, moving out of America and living in another country to realize how good we have it. And even in a good country, I lived in Taiwan for 2 years. So they're still very westernized. They still are very pro-America. But I guess there were just little things that we had here that they still didn't have. That I definitely, and then just also, I started a podcast with my friends, so I would talk to people in the military. I would, get their point of view. And I remember one time on Facebook, have you ever seen that quote from Henry Kissinger? It was during a Woodward and Bernstein interview, but somebody made a meme out of it. And it said, military are useless pawns for our... I'm paraphrasing, but it was like the military is useless pawns for our usage or something like that. You know what I'm talking about?
In other words, we're no good. We're not needed.
Or they're just used. Basically, he was just saying the military was dumb and they were used for their, they were disposable and that. And I put that meme on my wall. Now, I put it on my wall to show that, this is what the elites think about the military.
Absolutely.
But I had a friend of mine see that, and he thought that's what I was saying about the military.
So he came at you pretty
hard. We got into a huge fight, But I also, I can see why the way the system is the way it is, why a lot of people are burned by the military itself, because a lot of people, I think most people that go into the military, they don't go into the military to wage war. A lot of people go because maybe they want to travel or they need help paying for college or they do want to serve, but they, not in a necessarily warlike manner. And it also, to me, it seems to draw two types of people, no black and white, either very heroic people or very psychopathic. Like people, but a lot of...
I beg to differ with that. I stayed in 20 years.
Okay.
And I never saw any psychopathic behavior. Okay. What I saw are guys going out and doing their job. That's what I saw. Every single day. Guys loving what they did. I was around, and I'm still friends with a lot of ex-military guys. We have a certain camaraderie that you don't find anywhere else in society.
Okay. I didn't want to cut you off. I was going to ask that too, because I can see that bonding, especially the way that society is now. A lot of men don't have that opportunity to really bond with each other at a very masculine, manly level. And I think that actually is a strength that our society needs that we don't have. And women need that too. We need time with each other, but we also need time to kind of be with our own sex, so to speak, and strengthen our selves that way.
But let me give you an example of what it's like. In 1975, the Cambodians stole one of our boats. And when we got wind of it, I was stationed in Thailand at the time. And they stole one of our boats, kidnapped the crew, and the crew was American. And you know what the feeling was, Verstine? Amongst us military guys?
That's my family.
Let's go get our boat back.
Oh.
Okay. Let's go get our folks back.
Yeah.
How who do they think they are, stealing one of our boats, hijacking one of our boats, and then putting our folks in captivity? And we went and got our boat back. Never, not one of us thinking about being psychopathic or being somehow warlike. We were going to get our folks back and going to get our boat back. And we did that. I lost two friends on that mission.
Oh wow.
Yeah. 18, 19 years old. When we got to where we were going, we found out their helicopter went down and they died. And these guys, we had come through basic training together, had come through tech school together. We had, lived in the same dorms together when we were in the United States, stationed out in Utah. And here we were in Thailand together. So we were given our orders and we carried out our orders. It was that simple. That simple.
Do you think, did you fight in the war, in the Vietnam War? Did you actually like fight physically?
I wasn't a combatant. I was aircraft mechanic.
Okay.
So, we were like behind the lines, way behind the lines. And my mother, she thought I was out there, fighting in the bushes. Like, no, Mom, the fighting is a long ways away from me. But there were instances where you went into situations where people were shooting. But even then, you didn't think anything about it because you went into survival mode.
Yeah.
And then after everything was over is when you sat and you thought about it, it's like, whoa, wow. But, when things were going on, you didn't think about that. I never pulled a trigger and shot anyone or killed anyone. I can say that. But I know guys that did.
Yeah.
But that's all about survival.
Yeah, and I just think the fog of war can drive people to insanity,
Yeah.
A lot of times. Like I did a panel with some other YouTubers last week, and we were talking about like how a lot of the Democrats, they want open borders. And we're just like, why would you like let somebody in where you warred with their country without checking them out?
That's right.
That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And ironically, it's the Democrats that want to talk about the warmongering. And I mean, I think both sides hate war. You know what I mean? But the Democrats would be like, oh, this, Trump's warmongering and war. And the United States is so bad. But yet they're going to open the doors without checking people out.
And let folks in that have no good intentions.
Yeah.
At all. They want to be here to work from the inside and destroy from the inside. So if you have open borders, what's the consequence of that? The consequence is not good.
Yeah. A lot of these people are just very delusional. They're very like their development's arrested,
It's defective.
Yeah, like they have like this baby style of thinking. Like I don't really get it. But living in Texas right now with Beto running for Senate, and I'm kind of seeing a lot of people's mentality. It's all these people that want open borders that aren't going to be directly affected by the people coming in. They live in rich neighborhoods and gated communities.
Yeah. That's the elite. The elite won't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
You look at California, it's not the elites that are having to deal with what's going on in San Francisco and San Diego and Santa Ana and Anaheim.
Yeah.
Los Angeles. It's not the elites that have to deal with that. It's the everyday folks out there that get up and go to work every day. And the elites don't want to hear them. I was watching some video last night. People coming into, city council meetings, and they're upset about what's going on.
Oh.
And the city council people, man, they
don't care. Is it Grindall 61?
Say again.
Is it Grindall 61? Is it his channel?
I can't recall what channel it was. Yeah, I believe it was.
It's Grindall 60. Yeah, he has great footage of stuff.
Yeah.
I've actually even made copies of some of his videos because some of his stuff that he gets is so good. I'm afraid they're going to erase it. Mm-hmm. But I think, did you see the one, there was a black woman and she was talking about like how her friends are Latino and they were
she had on the MAGA hat?
I think so.
Yeah. That was in Los Angeles.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Los Angeles. I'm in Texas now, but he's in Los Angeles. He gets a lot of great footage like that. Yeah. All right, Bobby, it's your turn. I hadn't heard nothing from you. You gotta talk. Well, can't be up in this interview and not say nothing. So when did you get off the plantation, or did he drag you along with him?
The plantation, like you said back then, we didn't think of it as then. I think when it was finalized. You're talking basically a 20-year process from like 1968 to like 1988. Okay. When Martin Luther King was shot, you know, I probably listened to every speech the man gave, you know, and I understood, you know, Medgar Evers and all these guys, you know, I listened to those guys. And what I understood was that they were talking about, you know, right of access. You know, James Brown had a song out back then. Open, you know, I don't want anybody to give me nothing. Open up the door and I'll get it myself.
Yeah.
That was the
Oh, really? I'm gonna look that song up. That sounds awesome, and I love James Brown.
That was the attitude we had back then. Well, after Martin King died, it changed. You know, Nixon became president. You know, got elected in '68. You know, the Vietnam War was going hot. You know, and everybody was like, you know, guys were coming back 2, 3, 4 years older than me. You do not want to go over there. You know, if you can get out of that, don't go. Well, you know, they started doing the lottery. And so that's how I got out of it. Because I came within 5 slots of going.
Hey, could you explain to me and our listeners how that worked? I'm curious. I never really asked anybody. How did you, like, did you get notice in the mail? Like, how did you know, like, your number? Like, how did the draft work?
Well, I think it was either in March or April. They would, like, it's basically like the lottery on TV. You know, they would toss out back in this was probably before your time. They tossed all these balls in this machine, and they would just pick them out as they came. They would do this on TV, national TV.
They would do 365 balls.
Yes. Yeah.
A ball for every day.
For every day of the year. And that year, they would they would actually pull the ball out of the machine, you know, and say the date. And they would start it out. They probably go they were doing you know, they were trying to get more troops in the country. So they went like to 256. Well, by the time I graduated high school, it was down like to 105 or something like that. And I think I came out like 115 or something. And but yeah, they would literally pull your ball out, you know, the date out of the machine, and they would, you know, place them down and say, this is the first, you know, if you're born on the first ball that was picked, you definitely are going, you know. And it was so.
That's the way they did it.
And it was so
what if you didn't watch TV? What if you're like, I didn't see it?
Oh, you would get your letter.
Oh, you would get your letter.
Yeah.
You were going to get your letter either way. It was just like a heads up.
It would be greetings from Uncle Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what if you were like, I didn't get it, and you just ripped it up?
Nah.
Threw it away.
You know, and then Uncle Sam would slow walk you.
What if you were on vacation? And you're like, wow.
And so every 5th ball, I can't remember exactly. If you got, if you were like the 1, 2, 3, 4, you're probably Army, you know. And the 5th ball, I think you would be like Marines. So everybody was looking at every 5th ball because somebody wants to go in the Marines.
Yeah, that's hand-to-hand combat.
But they were doing this because, you know, everybody was hollering and screaming about, you know, the draft, you know, because before that, you would just get your letter. Mm-hmm. You know, there was no system or anything. They would just send out letters. You know, I don't know how they did that before, but you would just get a letter saying, you know, you're going to the military. And so then they came up with the lottery system, you know, make it feel like you were, you know, had a chance and stuff. You know, it was a bunch of nonsense, but, you know, made it feel like it was a bunch of nonsense. But in '68, when Martin King died, it changed. It went from right of access to, hey, look, you know, you guys need to make room for these people. It went from merit and character to just skin color. And that pissed me off. You know, I'm 15, 16 years old. I was really upset about that because we were raised on our merit. You know, you have to prove yourself. Now you don't have to prove yourself anyway. And all through the 70s and most of the 80s, whenever you got hired, you would get these looks like, you must be affirmative action. You couldn't have earned your job. So obviously you're not qualified for this position. I can't fire you because you're black. I can't fire you because you're a woman. And it got so bad in the mid-'70s, you as a black woman and women's right, you would get hired first because they killed two birds with one stone, a minority and a woman.
But I worked my butt off, so I would have earned it too.
No, we all did.
I worked my butt off. Huh?
Well, if you didn't get where you're at, this is one of these obvious things. You didn't get where you're at because you got affirmative action. Because if you were a ward of the system, you wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
See so things like that speaks for themselves. And when you're talking to people. And at that time, they came up with Black History Month. Then I was really pissed.
Yeah, because why isn't it just history? Yeah, it should be history. And I think, because I've talked about this too. I'm sorry, I'll hold your thought because I want to interject a little bit. But I've talked about this with my friends. When I went to, I fortunately had a cousin and a couple people in my family that will always kind of feed me other information other than what I was being taught in school. But when I went to college, it was the first time I was taking, I got to take classes specifically on Black history, and I was really excited. But then I was just like, well, why is this only, delegated to Black people? This is, everybody should know this because it affects everybody. Yeah. These decisions, these events, these people, this affects everybody. It shouldn't just be for a small group of people to know. History is history. It's very vast and it's very nuanced,
Yeah, and so, that upset me at that time. And here you're talking to a kid in the 5th grade who wouldn't sing Negro folk songs. And the music teacher, well, why aren't you singing? Well, what's with the Negro folk song? Why ain't it just a folk song? Why it's got to be Negro? And it was like, well, blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't hearing it, and I'm 11, 10 years old. I wasn't hearing it.
You woke up. You took the red pill. You were already out the Matrix.
The idea telling me that I'm not an American. That's how I took it.
Yeah.
You're telling me that I'm not an American. I got to have a lighter skin color to be an American. I'm like, no, I'm an American. I was born in America. I don't know jack scratch about Africa. I am an American. Yeah. And they kept coming up with these terms, African American. And at the time, I was kind of trying to get into the Islam thing with Farrakhan until okay, y'all don't know what y'all talking about. So, Yeah,
and you're on the other end of the extreme. Yeah.
You're just as bad as the KKK guy.
Yeah.
I work with every day. He talks the same stuff. And so it's in 75, I was at a dope house. I'm not going to lie. I was at a dope house. And there was a guy there and named Don. And every time I saw him, he had
Wait, you said a dope house?
Yeah.
Okay.
This was the 70s, girl.
Oh, you were having fun. That's okay.
We were crazy. But anyway, he would always have his head in a book. And it was like, why are you always reading a book? And he was trying to learn how to read. And I'm like, I'm used to meeting guys, uncles, great aunts and stuff that did not learn how to read. Because, they're from some small country way in the bottom. They didn't have a chance to go to school. They had to work, and stuff. So they didn't learn how to read. But when I started running into people younger than me that couldn't read, I said, wait a minute, something's wrong. Something's wrong. Then I started paying attention. And it was like, well, that's not true. Bunch of liberal, white liberal friends, and they would, well, I understand, I'm sympathizing with you and blah, blah, blah. I said, well, what about him over there? That poor white guy over there, I got it better than him. You treat him like dirt. And we would get into these heated arguments, and it was like, I don't know about this leftist stuff, maybe a liberal somewhat, but I don't know about this leftist.
Was it called leftist back then? Were the terms the same?
Yeah, they changed from leftist to liberal to progressive.
Same cat.
Same cat.
Did you follow Malcolm X at all? Were you into his?
I did, in the sense that what I learned from Malcolm X, his thing was, you don't need anyone else to do what you need to do. You are well and capable of going out in this society and doing things for yourself without leaning on white people. That was his thing. He hated Democrats.
Yeah.
I mean, he thought they were the most vile and worst group of people on the planet because of everything they had done to black people since, not just since Civil War, but mainly since 1930s when Roosevelt was president, with the New Deal and all that. And so he was really hard on Democrats. He didn't want anything to do with them. And so I got that from him. And then Reagan got elected. And in 87, I moved to, no, it was in 84, when Reagan was running for re-election. He was having a press conference. And the reporters were at him about the Russians. Everybody was like, what are the Russians going to do? What are the Russians going to do? We got to make sure the Russians don't get upset. And Reagan had left the mic. And a reporter, well, what about the Russians? He stopped, came back to the mic, and he said, the Russians need to worry about me. And I was like, that's what I'm talking about. Be a man, be one.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, he the big dog. The Russians are afraid of me. That's why I like General Mathis. What keeps you awake at night? He said, nothing. I keep other people awake at night.
That's my job.
Yeah, snap.
And so when Reagan did that, I was like, well, forget these wimps over here. Mm-hmm. And then in 88, I was in Georgia. And that's when Rush Limbaugh went national. He had already been listening to him in Sacramento. And he went national, and I'm riding, stuck in traffic, of course. And I'm sitting and listening to this guy. And I'm like, well, who the heck is he? Because everything he's saying, that's what I think. I believe that. And then I realized at that moment that I was not a liberal, that I was really truly a conservative. And from that point on, Democrat couldn't tell me anything.
And for me, in the 80s, when Reagan had come about, because I started listening to Rush Limbaugh when he was in Sacramento on KFBK AM station out there, and we would sit around in our office and listen to Rush Limbaugh. And then when he went national, it was like, you guys, I've been listening to him for years. So he resonated with me before he became national, because, I lived out in Sacramento at the time, and that's where he was. That's where he started with his radio show. So in the 80s, for me, it was like, I feel so much better being in the military now, because we have an administration that is pro-military. When Reagan left office and Bush the first became president, I started seeing some waffling from that administration. And then when Clinton came to power and we had our first Gulf War in 1990, first war, and I remember distinctly how the mainstream media was portraying the military. Here we are, the biggest and baddest military in the world, and they're saying that, hey, the Iraqis, they have a large and powerful military, and how is the American military's equipment going to operate in the desert over there in Iraq? And I'm thinking, because we used to do a lot of joint exercises with all of the militaries, the Marines, the Navy, the Air Force, the Army, Coast Guard. We always worked together. And I'm sitting here thinking, it's like, these guys have never heard of 29 Palms. And 29 Palms is out in the desert. Yeah. And they do a lot of exercises, military exercises out in the desert. So our equipment has already been proven that it can operate in the desert. But they're portraying it as if our equipment's going to have problems because they're not going to be able to operate with all the sand. Well, that's what 29 Palms is. So I'm listening to that. It's like, why are you guys denigrating our military and lifting the
It's like they're purposely trying to psychologically twist your morale.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, but us guys in the military at the time, we're not buying that because we know who we are, we know what we're about, and we know what we're capable of doing.
But it's just like in World War II, right? Didn't they do something where they would drop leaflets like, psychological warfare, saying you're gonna lose, you're gonna lose. It seems like it's kind of a form of that.
Yeah. And Japan tried that in World War II with Tokyo Rose. But the guys over there fighting in the Pacific at the times, the Marines over there, it's like we know what we're about. We know what we're capable of. We understand who our enemy is. Hey, Tokyo Rose, you can talk all that crap you want. We know what we're capable of doing.
And Jimmy Carter got elected because of the war. When the war, when the fighting stopped in 75, we got out, 73, something like that. When the fighting stopped in 75, America lost the war. Well, America didn't lose the war. They just quit fighting it. And even after America left, the South Vietnamese weren't losing. It's when Congress defunded their effort that they started losing. And see, these things you didn't hear on TV. You had to dig these things up.
Oh yeah.
And you would hear them constantly bashing the military, saying this equipment ain't the A1 Abrams was a piece of crap, the F-15 was a piece of crap, the F-16 was a piece of crap.
I heard that all the time.
All the time. So when it came to the Gulf War, the F-15 was, they was going to start knocking those things out of the sky, blah, 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 blah. And F-15 has never lost an AC engagement ever.
Because the Iraqis had the 4th largest air force in the world. So that was going to be something.
Is that true?
Well, at the time it was. At the time it was. Yeah. Because they had, the Soviet Union had really supplied the Iraqi army with a lot of equipment.
Okay.
But the equipment is inferior to what we had at the time.
But the media was painting it as their stuff was superior. And we heard that junk all the way from the end of the war all the way up until then. And it's like the military don't even count. Like you were saying, the militaries are stupid people. They're ignorant, uneducated, and all this good stuff like that. And it's like you treat these guys like they're nothing, like, men and women like they're nothing. Like this, you only went into the military because you couldn't do anything
else. Because you couldn't do anything else.
That was
I volunteered for it.
Yeah, that was the basic attitude you got coming out of the Vietnam War. Nobody wanted to hear about the war anymore.
I found the quote. Hold on. It says, military men are just dumb, stupid animals to be used as pawns in foreign policy.
Yeah.
Again, you go back, and I can speak for all of my brothers, for each and every one of them. I volunteered in 1973. This is after the draft. And one of the reasons that I went into the military is, one, I wanted to go see the world.
Yeah. A lot of people say that. Yeah.
I knew that I could not do that on my own.
Yeah.
And then once I got into the military first team, I enjoyed it. Got myself educated while I was there. And the guys that I know from the military, they're not dumb. They're not stupid. We don't consider ourselves pawns for for foreign policy. We went in to do a specific thing, and we did it. And we did it with pride, and we did it with honor, and we took care of each other. One of the things that people have to remember, especially during my time in the military, is who was in control of both houses of Congress at that time. Yeah. It was the Democrats. They had control of both houses of Congress during and after World War II, all the way up until 1992.
Whew, please don't let them get control again.
Yeah, so people don't realize that specific part of it. So what do we hear? We hear the bashing of the military day in and day out. And again, us that are in the military at that time, we're saying, no, we're the biggest, baddest animal on the face of the planet militarily.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no one that can come up against us militarily. But then you hear the mainstream media and the Democrats constantly bashing the military. That puts a sour taste in your mouth that does
Yeah.
not go away.
Well, as relating it to the day, um,
Yeah.
the past 8 years, ISIS couldn't be defeated.
Yeah.
We can't defeat ISIS. That's what you were being told. So you send these guys over here, and you shackle them and tell them they can't do this and they can't do that. Vietnam all over again.
You would think that they would just lie, even though that maybe just say that it is true, right? That they would still lie to increase your morale, to give you a chance psychologically of, like, it's like, whose side are they on,
We did it on our own because we can't rely on anyone else to uplift us as far as morale goes. We can't rely on anyone else but us. We were taught when I first went in basic training, we were taught something called esprit de corps. And that esprit de corps is each man taking care of the other man, this brotherhood that is unbreakable, that is unshakable. So we're listening to what the politicians are saying about the military, and then we're looking at our own everyday experiences with each other. And what I remember when I first went overseas in 1974. A lot of people say the war wasn't going on. Now, they were still pulling the trigger in 1974.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first got there, I was out with the guy. We were working on top of an airplane, and it was monsoon season. And I've told my brother this story. So I'm looking at this big wall of rain come towards us, and I asked the guy that I was working with, and he had been over there for a while. I said, "Aren't we going inside? It's getting ready to rain." He says, "No, man, put on the rain gear and because those guys out there in the bushes, they don't have a place to go in."
Yeah.
And that made a big impression on me. It's like, okay, I understand. You keep working.
But you thought you were gonna wait till the rain stopped for it to go to work. We're not gonna fight today. Okay, it's raining. All right, guys. We'll see you when the rain stops.
Boy, come in the house.
Come in the house. It's raining.
Come out of the rain.
He said, put on the rain gear and keep working because there's guys out there, they don't have a building to go in.
Yeah, that's truth right there.
So, that stuck with me my entire career. That conversation from 1974, it stuck with me my entire career.
And what he's talking about, I want to tag into something you had said earlier. You said, men not having other men to be around, to bond, as men. And when I began to see that, probably late 70s, when I started paying attention, because at that time, we didn't have the internet, but I would go down to the library, take a day and go down to the library and just pull everything out I could find on a certain topic and sit and research it, And I used to do that at least once a week or so, and just research that topic. And I started learning, okay, first person I learned about, we didn't learn in school, was Benjamin Banneker. We never heard of him, I never heard about George Washington.
Carver?
No, George Washington. George Washington Carver was pretty popular.
Okay.
Him and Booker T. Washington and Harriet Tubman, you were going to learn about them.
Yeah, you're going to learn about them.
In school. But you never heard about Benjamin Banneker. You never heard about,
that name sounds familiar. What did he do? So would you just refresh me?
The French helped America in doing the revolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted to build a city that wasn't part of America, which is what is D.C. Well, the French were going to help America do that, lay it out and survey it. And when the French and the Americans fell out, the French took the plans and left. He wrote down the plans, the architectural plans from memory. And that's how Washington, D.C. got built. you know, and he was a black man. Well, I didn't know that. I learned that, you know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard the name before and I just forgot.
Yeah, and that's what he did. And stories like, you know, because all these white men that built the country, they're all evil, blah, 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 this, you know, and they would say, well, Washington wasn't a great hero. All I'm like, well, if he wasn't a great hero, he was close to one. The man had no less than 6 horses shot from under him, you know, and you got to be pretty close to the fight to get a horse shot from under you back then, you know, because people weren't that accurate. So, you know, no, the guy had a lot of heart. Mm-hmm. You know, these guys had a lot of heart.
And that's back then, you know, the kings would go and fight in the wars with the
Well,
with the people.
You still have the Jordanian king right today. This guy goes out with his military and goes through military exercises with his troops. Yeah. This is the king of Jordan.
Dang.
Today, he does that. And you look at the guys like, he's in his 50s, and you look at him as like, that guy is buffed, man.
Yeah, because he, you know, if he has to go fight, he ain't gonna die easy. He ain't going out like that.
He's ready to go to war, you know. He's built up pretty good. But here he's royalty, but he's out there with his troops.
Yeah, he's with his men.
Yeah, he's out there with his men.
And it's like, you start picking up on these stories. You start learning about these stories. And you know, and you start putting them all together, and you get a different picture, you know. Mm-hmm. Like, race relations in America before the Civil War and after the Civil War are totally different, you know, because before the Civil War, you know, most blacks were property, you know. There was no competition. You weren't in competition with the white man, you know. After the Civil War, you became competition. Now you got to be demonized because we got to keep you from competing against us. And when people think about white supremacy, they think of racism. The white supremacist, he thinks about holding on to what he has.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And I was watching a documentary back in the 80s, and this old white racist and down in Mississippi, he said, well, you know, we got to keep the races separate because you let people get together, they're going to naturally mix. And we can't have that, you know. And I was like, oh, he wasn't keeping me from the white woman. He was keeping her away from me. You know? That's how he looked at it. You know, because he understands men and women are attracted to each other.
Yeah, exactly.
And if they spend time enough with each other, all that nonsense is going to go away. You know, and they understood that. Yeah. And so today it's like this hatred thing that you have. That wasn't, you know, even back, I say past 1920, that's not what it was. You know, the hatred came in after the KKK reformed and when Woodrow Wilson became president, a whole other story, but when he became president, he was the one that segregated Washington, D.C. Before Woodrow Wilson became president, Washington, D.C. wasn't segregated. Blacks and white worked together in all departments of the government. And when he got here, the Southern aristocrats didn't want to work with black people. And that's how Washington, D.C. got segregated. When you look at all this stuff, we'll go back and see, and the footprints and paw prints you're going to see on it is Democrat.
It's Democrat.
Every time. They do not want people united. You know, they don't, you know, we can't have people getting along, you know. And you see that all throughout their history.
I want to ask you something, too. What are your feelings on JFK, who is a Democrat? What are your feelings about him? And then I also want to ask you about what were your feelings of Muhammad Ali choosing not to go fight in the Vietnam War? Those two things. So
that bothered me because I knew so many guys that had gotten drafted and went without question. And for me, I'm a teenager back at that time. I am nowhere near military age when the Ali thing was all happening. But I remember guys that I grew up with, you know, guys a little bit older than me, going to Vietnam and coming back messed up in some cases. I mean, not just physically,
but mentally,
but mentally, okay, messed up. Eugene P's older brother went and fought, in '65, and he came back and he was just all messed up.
Yeah, he wasn't.
So I'm seeing guys that I know, black and white. Dwayne Hackney, another one. I'm seeing guys black and white going off to war, and they're going off to war, and they're doing so without question. I'm watching my brother, my oldest brother, get drafted, and my one of my uncles. These guys are 2 years older than me, and off to war they go without question. And the impact on the family to see, a family member go off to war thinking, man, it's a possibility that I'll never see them alive again. So when you have the draft dodgers out there, and you have the protesters, and you have Muhammad Ali, man, that left an impression on me. Don't you feel some sense of responsibility? I mean, to me, it was like taking the coward's way out. After having seen so many guys that I grew up with go off to war and come back and be messed up.
Well, he did. He got his title stripped away from him, and he went to jail, though, right?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Well,
He never
did any jail time. They just took his title away from him.
Oh, I thought he went to jail. Okay.
He never did any jail time. But and then JFK. Abraham Lincoln said that there's always a man fit for their times. Like Abraham Lincoln just fit the Civil War. He fit in that time. The Kennedys fit in their time to some degree. But what happened was, and didn't understand this is 1960. I'm only 9 years old when he gets elected president. So how politically astute was I at 9 years old? Yeah. I wasn't. So all I had to go on is what I'm hearing, from the news. And I'm not watching a lot of news at 9 years old. I'm out running around playing.
Yeah.
So as
you weren't playing video games? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
So as things were unfolding at that time, I'm not paying attention to that. It's only after I get older that when I go back and I start researching and find out, well, hey, these guys, him and his brother, Robert Kennedy, they were in a situation where the racism in the South is now has been exposed to the whole world, because you have television now exposing all of this racism in the South. Now people can see the Jim Crow. Now they can see the bigotry. Now they can see the separate but equal. Now they can see colored only and white only. And like Bobby said earlier, now they can see that black folks don't have access to the same things as people, white people in the South, and even in the North. Even in the North. Because a Democrat is a Democrat, whether he's a Southern Democrat or a Northern Democrat. There's no distinction. So when you go back and you look at that part of history, it's like, well, these guys, the Kennedys at that time, they had their hands tied. They had to do something. You couldn't sweep it under the rug any longer, because now the whole world is what's going on in America, and more specifically in the South. They're seeing people like Viola Louisa leaving Detroit and going down in the summer of '64. Okay, the civil rights summer, going down, and here she is, a white lady, and she gets killed. They're seeing Cheney and Swarner and Goodman, these guys disappearing, and they find their bodies later.
Oh, is that the civil rights workers in Mississippi? The Mississippi burning was based off of?
Yeah, the Mississippi burning movie. So they're seeing all this. They're watching black people afraid in the South, because here comes these northern whites, these abolitionists, so to speak, like they had back in the '60s.
Carpetbaggers.
The carpetbaggers from the North. They're seeing them come down, and they're trying to get black folks registered to vote.
Yeah.
And hey, that white boy's not wanting to hear that.
Oh no, they didn't.
No, they didn't want to hear that at all, because you're coming down here trying to change our way of life. Yeah. Well, see, the way of life back then was complete servitude.
Yeah.
Just another form of slavery. Sharecropping was just another form of slavery.
Yeah.
That's what it was. So now all of that's been exposed to the world. So what position are the Kennedys going to take? Well, they can't side with the Dixiecrats, as they were called back then. They can't side with them, so they have to do something, because the world knows now this is not something that's kept, and held close to the chest any longer. It's out there for everyone to see. So they have to do something. You know what they would do? They would send the FBI in the South, and the FBI was only there to observe. They weren't there to arrest anyone. They weren't there to bring a case against anyone. They were just there to observe.
Interesting.
That is something. Here you're standing and you're watching people get beat, have dogs sicked on them,
water hoses,
have their houses burned, people coming up missing, found dead, and the FBI is just there to observe. Because who's the FBI run by at that time? J. Edgar Hoover.
Yeah.
One of the biggest Democrats and racists ever known to mankind.
Jedgar, we call him.
Yeah. But, at the time, Burstein, as a 9-year-old kid, 9 to, 12, 13, I wasn't paying attention to that.
You reflect on that stuff.
Yeah, no, but I mean, you still remember it, so I'm just trying to get through your eyes, what was it like, and then you go back and now that I'm older, I'm going to have to reflect on a lot of the Nixon, Reagan, all that stuff, because I was told something different, and I had a different perspective thrown at me. Now, because of where I am, I'm going to have to reassess and reanalyze a lot of that stuff and see where I stand with that, because...
Well, see, for us, my mom and dad left the South in 1952. I was a year old. Bobby was 6 months old. Covington, Tennessee is where we were born. And there was an exodus from out of the South to the North back when we were like infants. Yeah. Black people were coming to the North because they were coming to get these jobs up here. And we were raised around, I never went to a segregated school, never lived in a segregated community. Had tons of friends that were white, black, and Mexican.
And you're Flint, right? Is this?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Flint.
Yeah, my dad's from Colorado. He same. My parents had me late, so my parents are in their mid-70s. So my dad, same thing. Like he didn't experience racism, but he didn't. But everything, his neighborhoods, his school, everything was all integrated. They all
yeah.
So sorry.
In our community, it was black, white, and Mexican. When you say Mexican, it was like Mexican in Michigan. Yeah, it was black, white, and Mexican. So I didn't know anything about segregation. I didn't know anything about Jim Crow. I didn't know anything about white only and colored only. The first time I saw that was 1968, and I was 17 years old then.
Yeah.
So, we didn't know anything about that. So we were pretty much insulated from all of that.
Yeah.
And I think my mom and dad, along with a lot of other people that came out of the South, raised us in these environments on purpose, so we wouldn't have to deal with it.
My mom went through Jim Crow, but my dad didn't.
Yeah.
But my mom explains it too, where she was just like, I didn't really know any better because we just weren't around other white people. We'd see him from time to time, and she was like, I didn't. And my mom said, now I can't believe it because she's such an open-minded, like warm-minded person. But she was like, I didn't like white people. And I was like, well, why? She goes, I don't know. I was just told not to like them, and I didn't really see any. So I was just like,
and she's still like that in the South in a lot of places.
And it's a lot like that here. I could go 2 miles over from where we are right now to the South, and we don't stay in the city proper. We stay on the north side in an area called Beecher. This is where we grew up at. But, you go over there, you grow up, and you start interacting with a wider range of people. You go into college, even though I wasn't in college, you go to college anyway, at that age, because you're partying. So you get to meet people. And so when I would go to college, and the white kids, well, they weren't odd to me. You might go to over to East Lansing to Michigan State, and some of the kids you grew up with are over there, black and white. So it wasn't odd to me, and you would get all these strange looks from these these Detroit guys, what were you doing over there talking to him? Well, grew up together.
We grew up together.
You're like, he's like my brother. What are you talking about? Like, yeah, I know. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, we grew up together, running up and down the street, throwing baseballs and playing basketball. We grew up together. We went to school, gym class, all that stuff.
Fighting each other, and then after playing baseball.
We had one incident with our uncle. He was close to our age.
I wanted to tell that story.
Let him tell you. I'm going to tell you.
It's a funny story. You tell it.
My uncle. He's 2 years older than me, 3 years older than Bobby. He was raised in Tennessee. So in 1966, he comes up and he spends the summer with us. Where in our district, they would open up the swimming pool every summer. So all the kids in the community would go up to the swimming pool and swim. So when he first gets up here, he goes up to the gym with us, and he's standing up against the wall. He never gets in the water. And so we thought it was odd, but we didn't say anything about it. Years later, I asked him, I said, Uncle Thomas, when you came up that summer and we went up swimming, you didn't get in the water. Why didn't you get in the water? He says, man, we didn't get in a mud hole with white people and swim. If we were in a mud hole and the white guys came along, we had to get out of the mud hole. This is in the South.
Yeah.
We had to get out of the mud hole. He says, I'm looking at you and Bobby, man, you're in the water, in the swimming pool with all these white kids and you guys are having fun. His thought was, somebody's going to call the KKK and come
yeah.
And they're not going to make it back home tonight. What am I going to tell my sister?
He's like, I ain't going down like that. He's like, I ain't going down like that. Well, I know there was this incident too. Dorothy Dandridge wrote in her book when she went to Hollywood. And they were like, oh, no black people in the pool.
That was in Las Vegas.
It was Las Vegas. I'm sorry. I said Hollywood. But you know what I'm talking about. So I'll tell the listeners, no black people in the pool. And she goes and she sticks her toe in.
Yeah.
And they drain the pool.
Yeah.
They were like, no dirty black people, in the pool.
Yeah. And we didn't think nothing about it. You run out the locker room, cowabunga, into the pool, you all go.
Yeah, it's really weird to have that, live in that reality where you're paranoid. Like that. And I feel like there are a lot of black people that even in this day and age, they don't have to be in that reality, but they still choose to be in that reality of just not.
And like I say, you get out of high school, you get your first job, you get your, a good car, not the beater that old man.
Yeah.
You get a good car. And so you start getting around, you start going out of town and, you would take people with you. And they're like, hey, let's jump down the Ipsy, let's run up to Central or whatever. And you would always have this, group that, didn't want to go. And it was all like, well, why didn't they want to go? We're going to have a blast, y'all. And it was like, well, ain't no black people up there. What?
It's like, who cares?
I mean, what's that guy? Our parents, to their credit,
I know. There are people that are
about all the stuff that they went through in the South
until
we were a lot older.
Yeah, me too.
They didn't drill that.
They went through real racism, I'm sure, right? Like my parents went through, but they never. As I've gotten older, they've told me stuff, but they didn't want me to like. And this is why I get so mad when I hear people like the leftists and they try and instill this slave mentality in people too, that you can't do anything because you're black and there's always going to be people trying to keep you down. But I'm like, well, that's life.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. But they're gonna people hate you because you're tall, you're short, you're a woman, you're pretty, you're ugly, you're whatever.
It's just the challenges of life.
It's the challenges of life.
I was down in Georgia. These young boys, I was kind of, making them come to work because they know, well, you go to work and the white man, shut up and come on. And we were on the wall, and my boy, Dennis, the Menace, we used to call him. Dennis was from Peoria, and Peoria is pretty much like Flint, a company town. It was Caterpillar there, the General Motors here. And so he grew up in the same kind of neighborhood I grew up in, So he wasn't, strange to black people, and I wasn't strange to white people. So, we was pretty tight. And we were standing up on the wall one day, pumping concrete, and one of the younger black dudes, inner city type, said, were you born with a silver spoon in your mouth? He said, I'm on the wall with you.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, like.
I'm like, okay, you gonna answer the man?
Yeah.
And then he shut up. I'm on the wall with you. All of us out here. And I would tell him, look out here, man. Okay, 2 things you're gonna know about construction when you walk on the job site. First thing, there are no children. And if you see a woman, usually she's in a piece of equipment driving it. I said, all this stuff we out here doing, all you see is men. Ain't no boys out here.
Yeah, because that's just it's heavy. Sorry, I mean that stuff's heavy.
You're not a boy anymore. You're a man.
Yeah.
All these guys out here are men. You're gonna start acting like it. And I would tell them, when you come on a job site, usually you get hired one day and then you start work the next day. When you come in tomorrow, I want to see a hammer and I want to see a tape measure, because you're gonna look like you want this job. And they would be, oh, no, that's what you're gonna do. And they would do it, and you would see the change in them, because I was always pushing them. Man, why are you always pushing at us? You don't push it at that white boy. I said, because the white boy pushing at him, I'm pushing at you. Why do you think he's always want to take you over there and don't want him working with me? Want you working with me? He don't want you to learn anything. They bring me the white boy. I want you to teach this guy. They said, you got the black dude over. He's been working here 6 weeks. This dude just come in. You want to put him with me so he can learn something. And they would get pissed. But they knew I didn't care, because I understood that if you do a good job and make money for this dude, he's not going to want to get rid of you.
Yeah.
And I had one incident where I'm up in the stairwell, and the boss comes up, and he stands up there and he's talking to the foreman. And I said, I'm looking down there, and he keeps cutting his eye up at me. I said, what is he doing? So he left. He came up and said, come with me. He said, Dyson, come with me. And he said, what? The boss said, you make too much money to be doing the stuff you're doing. He wants you to learn how to do this, because, you're talking to the dude. You're not talking to him rough. We having guy conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're the boss, but we talking like guys, And it's like, okay, this dude got sense. So I want to teach him how to do this. Then the next thing you know, you're running a crew. And everybody's like, what is he doing running the crew? Because he know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Well, why is he doing that? Because he know what he's doing and you don't.
Yeah.
So now, either you go over there and stack lumber, or you get in your car and leave. One or the other.
Yeah.
And they would be hot, especially the North Georgia white boys. They would be hot. But it's like, you come at me with, well, I'm a racist. Well, you pretty sucky at it. Well, you're supposed to be a racist, white supremacist.
Where'd you get your degree in racism from? You better go and ask for refunds.
I said, I need to give you white racist lessons. And they would look at me like, okay, something wrong with you. And I would do that to them because they wanted to argue. You know, white versus black, better than black. They come in on Monday. How does that white racist thing work for you over the weekend? You're like, what? So you said white racist, right? Yeah. Well, what do white racists do when they over the weekend? Do y'all go fishing, hunting?
Do you eat pizza? What do you?
Football, basketball.
What do you
Did
eat?
Catch the game? Did you get the Braves game? It's like, man, something wrong with you. Oh, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. And I end up telling him, look, dude, we out here working. Okay. What do you do when you get off in the evening? He would say, I get in my truck and I go home. What do you think I do? You get in your truck and go home. We don't see each other until the next day, right? Don't see each other from Friday till Monday morning, right? Yeah, okay. Why should I care whether or not you like me or not? And he, looking around like, that's a good question. I said, dude, it's people in your family that when you see them coming, you're like, here come them. They blood and you don't want to see them coming.
Yeah.
And tell me I'm lying. He looked at it like, dang. He didn't talk to me for 3 days.
You have to process. You have to process. That was some deep stuff.
Come back. He like, okay, man, I hear what you're talking about. And we shook hands and we got along swimmingly after that.
Well,
When I first went in the military, all of us from basic training through tech school, and even after we left tech school, it was just a group of us always together. And there was this white guy from some little town in Kentucky. And we were sitting around one day. He's hanging out with us. So we're sitting around one day, and he says, man, when I go home on leave, I'm going to cuss my daddy out. And it's like, whoa, man, where'd that come from?
You're like, thanks for the announcement. All right, yeah.
Well, he was thinking about what his dad and his grandfather had told him about black people. He had never been around black people.
Yeah.
So now he's in the military, and he's hanging out with us. And for him, it's like, you guys are just out for the same things.
Yeah. He's like, you like pizza too.
Yeah.
Like, who knew? Yeah.
Just trying to make a living. And I remember telling him, it's like, dude, just leave it alone. Your dad was telling you what he learned.
Yeah.
And he was passing that on. So now you're out here and you see for yourself that what your dad was telling you doesn't have any truth to it.
Yeah.
And that was back in 1974. Me and that guy, man, we're still as close today as we were back then.
Have you seen that documentary where the guy goes around and he befriends Klan members and he gets them to leave the Ku Klux Klan? I can't think of the name of that documentary, but yeah.
I know you're talking about where he talks Klan. He got they give him their Klan uniform.
Yeah.
Puts them in the closet. He talks these guys up out of there,
Yeah,
and it's basically explaining to people, all you want to do, the things you want to do is the same things I want to do.
No different.
Yeah.
I mean, neither one of us is running around here trying to become billionaires. We pretty much, middle class, and we ain't mad at that.
I wouldn't mind it though. I'm just saying. Yeah. I said I wouldn't mind it though. I wouldn't mind being a
No, I wouldn't mind it, but
Yeah, we just basic things.
Don't have that ambition.
Yeah.
To do that, and it gets to the place where that's okay. He's content with that. That's him. That's her. I'm fine with that. You should be no. You call your shot. Like I tell my nieces and nephews, they're all about 40 years old. I said, and she's having problems at work, and I said, look, you getting at the age, between 35 and 50, where you're going to decide who you're going to be the rest of your life. You're going to start deciding, okay, I don't want to do that. Ain't doing it.
Yeah.
This is okay. And you're at that age where you're making those types of decisions. Your kids are grown, you're playing with grandchildren and stuff like that. And it's kind of, a point where, man, do I really want to be angry at somebody about that?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's a waste of energy.
At 38, I was like, that's too much energy.
Yeah, you gotta I look at energy like how you spend your time.
Yeah.
You want to direct your energy on certain things, on certain people, and
And that's what the Democrats about.
Yeah.
Are about. They're all about being angry all the time.
Yeah, it is the victim and angry, and it's funny because one of my jobs I work for Lyft, and I mean sometimes I'm open to being proved wrong. I haven't been proved wrong yet, but I can basically tell a lot of by people's political position by their state of mind and what they complain about and what they talk about, and it's always either being really angry or being in a victim mentality, and it's so unattractive. Not in a sexual way, but just in a I don't even want to be around you way.
Well, it's that group thing.
Yeah.
It's group thing. Last week, this guy, I run an online business, and he comes at me, and immediately he's throwing out the N word, and he's cussing at me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
What?
And it's like I finally got to a point. It's like, man, I don't do super black,
He was black.
Huh?
He was black.
I don't do super
black.
No,
the guy was black.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I know what you mean. You don't do super black. That's why this series is actually called Blacker Than Thou, because my uncle would call the people that, were the super blacks, basically, or the blacker than thou.
Yeah. I don't do that. And, but why do the Democrats walk around so angry all the time? All the time.
That's their modus operandi for sure.
What's your take on Kavanaugh?
Oh, I don't believe any of those women. I'm gonna upload a couple of videos later. Cover your ears because I did some cursing in those, but I don't believe them. I just don't. The timing, They can't remember the details of the story. None of their friends could corroborate anything that happened. And now there's another accuser. It's obvious that they're trying to stall his confirmation. And I hope, huh?
And destroy him.
And destroy him. And that's just like, they're so low. Like, they won't stop at anything. They'll destroy people's families. They'll kill people. They'll do anything to win. And that's just that's like a demonic.
Yeah,
you know?
It is demonic.
But you know what? I think, I don't want to generalize both parties and say that Republicans can't be that way, but it just seems like the Democrats, just the way that they've been operating for years now, if you look back at everything, it's human nature, but they've just chosen to, that's how they obtain their power. By, being low and being dirty. And, Saul Alinsky, Hillary Clinton, that was her mentor. He praised, he praised Satan in a lot of his work, supposedly. I've just read excerpts of his work. I haven't read his whole work in entirety, but he praised. So it's like, I don't, but not even the first one, And then the second one that said that he put his, private parts in her face, I was just like, so she's never seen people's private parts? Like, that was traumatic? Like, they were kids? Like, they were drinking and drunk and they never acted, it's ridiculous. I wouldn't judge anybody by who he is now when you're a kid.
When you come out and you say, I was so drunk that I was on my hands and knees slurring my speech, couldn't even hold my head up, but now all of a sudden it's crystal clear.
Yeah, they probably either gave her some money or threatened her family to say that.
Oh,
either they're being paid off or they're being threatened. That's what I think.
Yeah, being paid off. But
well, they could be threatened though too. I mean, because I think somebody linked Hillary Clinton with their lawyer, and I wouldn't put it past her. I mean, she's a demon from hell. Like, I wouldn't pass her and her part, her with all her shenanigans and the things that she's been involved in to do that. You know?
Yeah. But if you go all the way back to 1828, when that Democrat Party was first formed, what you see from 1828 all the way up to today is the same old thing. They've just gotten more nasty and vicious with it.
Yeah.
Well,
Back then, they were fighting for space. They were trying to carve up space.
Yeah.
Now
it's power.
So what we see now,
it's our minds. They're trying to get our minds and our souls. They're fighting for our souls. That's what they want. Sorry.
It didn't look like we'd ever get to this place.
Yeah.
So that seemed like it was like the best we can do is hold the fort. That's what you were doing for the past 30 years, was holding the fort. Then Trump comes in, and it's like, what analogy I want to do. You've probably never done anything like this, but it's like taking a M80, digging a hole in the ant mound and letting it blow up, and the ants are just frantic and scattering because they don't know what's going on. They just know that the mound blew up, and you see them frantically trying to put it back together. And you'll come back the next day, and they put it back together, And it's like, I see the Democrats like, you weren't supposed to be here, It's like, you're not supposed to be here. We were never supposed to lose. Here, Kelly, this is, I'm going on what I heard, that the Queen wanted to pop Hillary because she stood up. She was that mad. They had to talk her down off of that wall. But, and a lot of people were mad at Hillary, for losing because you had a slam dunk.
Yeah, she's a horrible person, though. I think it was a miracle. It was a miracle. I didn't vote, actually, at all, but I knew I didn't give Hillary my vote, but I just was really apathetic to voting at the time. I'm going to vote midterms, though.
Make sure you vote all the time.
I am. I'm going to vote. But now I've gotten my voting spirit back, but it
was like you didn't have anything really, looked like they were going to keep power. They were going to hold power. The Republicans saying, well, if you give us the Congress, we'll do this, that, and the other thing. You gave them the Congress and they couldn't do anything. Why? Because some of them were being blackmailed.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things going on behind the scene that we probably in our lifetimes, I know him and I, we probably never hear about it, but behind the scenes stuff. And it's like when Trump, that ninth day, I liken it to when Kennedy got elected. It's like, the pall of World War II and Korea were lifted off the nation, and people were optimistic. A lot of the things Trump is doing now go back to that period. The lowest this in 50 years, the lowest that in 30 years. You were having that lifted off you, and Trump getting elected. This is the first time in my adult life that I am optimistic about this nation, because it looks so bad. I mean, as bad as it looked now.
It would have been worse if Hillary was,
The 70s, it was like, America was done. That's what you would get.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, America is done. America is through being a superpower. It's over for America. Blah, blah, blah this and blah, blah, blah. Negative, 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 negative. Then Reagan got elected. And everybody's like, whoa, wait a minute. Cowboy actor, what does he know about, what's going on in the country? But then he gets in there. He lowers taxes. Yes, we had a recession, but once that was over with, the country hit a stride. And what I learned back then was that no matter how much you beat down on America, and you see it throughout history, from the Revolutionary War on to now, Americans will fight among themselves. They will, scratch and spit at each other. But the minute somebody come from outside, it's like the old hood. You and these dudes could scrap all up and down the hood. The next block over, they come over and want to scrap with somebody on your block. Oh no,
it's like your brother and sister, right? You can make fun of your brother, but as soon as somebody makes fun of you, you're like, they're dead.
America's come together, even if they're not getting along. Wait a minute, you're not going to do that to America. And Trump tapped into that.
Yeah.
He tapped into that, And it's like now it's with the walkaway movement. Everybody says, "Oh no, walkaway is just a fad," and blah blah blah. But more and more people are seeing, and even like now with Kavanaugh. If you're a Democrat and you're seeing the way they do, well, how is he guilty? And tonight, Trump.
Oh, because he's an old white man, though. That's why.
Trump. And somebody asked Trump, do you think all these women are liars? And my first thought was, well, do you think he is? Why do we have to assume they aren't lying?
Yeah, and women lie all the time. Like, they lie all the time. I Tuck, in the video that I made, I was just like, I have 2 guy friends that were baby trapped and found out the baby weren't theirs because the woman lied. Women lie and destroy people's lives all the time and not think about it. I have women lie on me and try to destroy me for nothing because I'm skinny.
It's like Susan Smith. You're probably too young to remember this, but Susan Smith was it South Carolina where she was?
Yeah, you probably were teenagers.
She killed her kids.
And she drowned. She said they drowned them, and she said a black man did it, right? Yeah. I remember my dad was livid. I remember they was livid.
Person would put their, you strap them kids in the back of that car and let it roll down the boat ramp into the lake.
I mean, not to, but I think she was on antidepressants. That stuff makes you crazy. Just to be fair, that's a whole nother interview and episode talking about those drugs and.
Yeah, but the Democrats aren't on
antidepressants. They're just sick.
No, a lot of them are. No, okay, I see what you're saying though, but it's like that, and it's just their psychology, their way of their paradigm. Their life view, the way that they're choosing to get power, they get power by suppressing other people and stepping on top of them.
Yeah. They do.
Yeah.
And
so
it's a shame to see the country having to go through
all this stuff.
Yeah. Yes and no, but I also think we need to because this is now we're at an apex. We're at
a. We had to.
It's
like the civil rights movement. That had to happen. Eventually that's got to happen. And and a lot of people are, like I was telling some people last night, they were all, everybody was wringing their hands. Oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? I said, wait, look, we're in a war here.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
you want to see people perk walk in orange jumpsuits. We are in a war, man. You know, Trump getting elected was Concord Bridge, not Yorktown. You know, the war isn't over. We're going to be fighting this war the rest of our lives because they're not going to stop.
No, they're not stopping.
You know, they're not going to stop. And I said, a lot of you just want to see what you want to see, go home and turn off the world again and think everything is fine. No, we got to fight. You know, the colonials decided, hey, we don't want to be colonials no more. These people are dogging us out. Okay, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to kick them off our turf. You know, this is ours now. And the king you know, was saying like, no. You know, that's why I tell people, the Americans call it the War of Independence. The Crown, British Crown, called it a revolution because it was to them. You know, what was before is no longer. You know, and they understood that. And they still salty about that today. You know, you know, they haven't gotten over that. So I keep telling people, we are in a war. You know, Trump's fighting. You know, him and his general. I said, why do you think he's surrounded with generals? You know, most of his staff is generals. Why do you think that is? You know, that his becoming even this election. This isn't the end of it.
Yeah.
You know, if there's a red wave or not, it's not the end of it. Just because you win doesn't mean the South won more battles than the North.
And it's just because you lose too doesn't mean it's the end of it as well. You know, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna prepare myself. I'm not gonna be so arrogant to think that we're gonna win. Yeah. But I'm also not gonna be one of those people crying and rolling around on the floor because the person I voted for lost.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I to look at it like this a lot of times, and I guess people say that to you because they were, when people start wringing hands, I'm like, well, what are you afraid of? You know, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? You know, are you afraid of the dark?
Yeah, they are.
You afraid of the dark? And they're like, well, the fear of the unknown. I said, I'm like General Mad Dog Mattis. Everything in the dark is afraid of me. You know,
snap!
I'm like, yeah, because I'm not walking in fear for something that might happen or could happen. I'm going to walk saying, I'm going to make this happen. You know, and when you get that attitude in you, you didn't get where you are, saying, no, you push through some things. Some things that you were kind of doubtful, but you push through them. Anybody that's successful has to push through.
Yeah, it's adversity. It makes you stronger. Yeah. And I think a lot of these people too, they're acting the way they're acting because they really haven't had true adversity, and they're having stuff like participation trophies given, and they they're getting coddled and patted on the head for little many like what do you call it, like just petty stuff, Yeah. And now they haven't worked that muscle, so now the first time in their life when their opponent loses, they don't know what to do. They're like 4 years old again, like because they can't get a cookie. They're throwing a temper tantrum.
Right. So when they get out into the real world and they get into the workplace where the competition is hard and heavy, they don't know what to do.
It's pathetic. It's pathetic. It really is.
Raised a generation in this country that thinks like that.
Yeah, man, that's embarrassing. My kids ain't gonna believe it.
Where did you think that was going to go when you started doing that stuff? Well, see, the left didn't care, you know, and because we're trying to make this docile human being, and when anybody comes at me, I don't care where you are or what you're doing. When you start telling me, well, you got to watch out, I'm like, no, I got to be watched out for.
Yeah, exactly. I had this guy the other day who was trying to, I left this guy, he's trying to like convince me that racism was ruining my life. And I'm just like, I don't think so. Like, I'm not really paranoid about race. I'm like, I know that happens, but I can curse people out. I can, stick up for myself. I'm not, and then he had the nerve to be like, what are you, like an Alex Jones fan? I was like, are you kidding me?
What's that got to do with it?
Yeah, well, because I have the audacity to not be, have that racism whammy thrown on me and be all paranoid.
Yeah. Well,
and I do like Alex. I do like Alex Jones, but that had nothing to do with the presidency of China.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's supposed to shut you down, Verstein.
Yeah, I didn't care. Yeah.
It's like, you think that's going to shut me down, man?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, you don't even know. Yeah, you don't even know, man. I wanted to ask you. It's getting kind of close. I wanted to ask you this, just because you're older and fascinated with this, and I want to get your perspective on. I kind of think I know what you're going to say, but Obama, when he was elected, and how you feel about him?
When he was campaigning, I had a conversation with one of my uncles about it, because all black people had seen, the majority of black people, oh, we're gonna, with the possibility of a black president. It's like, yeah, okay. But that didn't do anything for me. And I remember I asked my uncle, I said, so why are you supporting him? What reason are you supporting him? He said, because he's charismatic. I said, okay. Let's look at some charismatic individuals down throughout history. Hitler was charismatic. Attila the Hun was charismatic. Genghis Khan was charismatic. Benito Mussolini, Tojo, and Hirohito, they were all charismatic.
Was Pol Pot charismatic?
Yeah, Pol Pot was charismatic. So you're going to support this guy because he's charismatic, but you're not interested in, what he's about, what kind of character he has. You're not interested in his policies. And I told him, I said, when I hear him talk about fundamentally transforming America, man, that means more than what you think it means. Okay,
you guys are so smart. I did not see past that. You know what I mean? I was just like, he's black. I want him to win.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but you know what? At the time, I couldn't admit that. Now I can.
Yeah.
I drank the Kool-Aid. I totally did. The first season.
He didn't resonate with me at all.
You see, black people, it's like you run into a bunch of young boys and they're wearing Martin Luther King, and this was fashionable, I guess, back in the early '90s. Martin Luther King on one side and Malcolm X on the other side. And I would tell them, you need to take that off. I said, why? And I said, because you don't know what those two dudes were about.
You know what helped me with that too? Right. First of all, I looked at his life. It's like, okay, so you were raised outside of the United States.
Yeah, that was one.
So you don't know what it is to live in America and be black. I don't understand all that because I wasn't raised around that kind of thing myself.
Yeah.
And then I used one experience I had from when I was in the military. It was a bunch of black guys sitting around one night, and everybody's talking about where they're from. And guys were talking about what it was like being raised in the ghetto, being raised in the hood. And I wasn't saying anything. And this guy from Philadelphia, he turns around to me and he says, why aren't you inputting anything? I said, because I don't know anything about living in that environment. That's not where I was raised.
Yeah.
And, so you one of those, you're uppity. I said, dude, I'm just telling you, I don't have any experience with
uppity
that.
Equals intelligence.
Yeah. I don't have any experience with that. I wasn't raised in the ghetto. I was raised in the country.
Yeah.
And so I used that. When I looked at Obama, first of all, he has no experience about what it means to be black here in America. I don't have much experience with that myself. He was raised in Indonesia. His dad was from Africa. His mom was white. None of them know anything. His grandparents were white, and they raised him after his mother passed away, and his dad didn't have anything to do with him anymore. So I'm looking at that, and then I'm using that experience, that conversation that all these guys were having when I was in the military. I don't know anything about the ghetto. I don't know anything about being raised in the hood. I was raised in the country. It's like, how can he identify with black people here in the United States when he never even lived around us?
Or Americans at any point.
He never even lived around us.
He has no American experience in him. And it's not in him.
It's not in it.
And I was cautious about him for that. But when he said fundamental transformation, that was it for me.
Wow.
And him and I had never talked about that.
That was it for me.
But I remember he said that. It's like, man, that means more. There's more in that than what he's letting you know.
The first thing I was telling people, what's wrong with the foundations of America?
That has to be fundamentally transformed.
That you got to change. What are you going to replace them with?
Yeah.
He's black.
I'm so embarrassed. I would like drive around and listen to the Yes We
don't
Can song in my car and cry.
Don't feel bad about it.
But it's over the years looking at people, you know, like you get, well, white people don't like you. I don't like you.
I know those people. When I lived in Taiwan, there was a guy, and he was black, and he was like, man, it's racist here, blah 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, the more I talked to him, I was like, no, man, I just think that you're a jerk. Like, I don't like I don't think it's like, you know, people may be curious or give you looks, but huh? Yeah.
Skin color, you're a jerk.
Yeah. But even if it is skin color, I think in some people's minds, they're really just attaching meaning to your skin color. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like whether it's experience or whether, like you said earlier about how they're fighting for resources or space. They're like, this type of person is going to take this away from me, or this is the type of person, you know, this person killed my brother, so therefore now all people like that are, you know, so it's like a defense mechanism. Yeah. You know, it's not just ignorance. It's a little more than that.
You experience people, you know, and regardless, you know, when I got, you know, in my 30s, it was like, you know, you take people one at a time, you know, and I started taking people one at a time. Yeah. You know, and what I learned was two different things. You have racism and you have prejudice. We mix those two.
Yeah.
They both mean the same thing.
They're not. Yeah.
But they're not the same.
Yeah.
Now, I have experienced prejudice in my life quite often, not just from white people, from black people. You know.
Yes, exactly. And definitely, because
you don't belong here. Why? Because you're not part of the group. You're prejudging my. You know, and all the time that's not always wrong, you know, because, you know, you see a guy and you want to date him or whatever, you know, you're going to look harder at him than you're going to look at somebody else, you know, if you're a normal thinking person, you know. It's like, okay, oh, girl, you sure are cute. Butter rum. Okay?
Yeah.
Who is that over there? You know, who are you? You know, and you like, they're looking at you like, well, why are you asking me all this questions? I'm trying to figure out who you are. You know, are you an axe murderer? You know, I don't know. Because I tell people, I'm pretty sure Jack the Ripper was a pretty charming.
I'm pretty sure he was.
Like you know, one of the first serial killers documented in America was a doctor. You know, charming, and you know what I mean. Like, so these people. Yeah, exactly. Very charismatic, very charming. You can't catch. You have to catch flies with honey. What is that, right? You catch more flies with honey.
Yeah. So you know, you mixing racism. You say racism, and you mean prejudice. You know. Yeah. Well, those people don't like me. You know. Well, there's people you don't like.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what I've noticed too. I've noticed too. Some of the first people that complain about racism are always the most prejudiced against other people.
Yeah.
You know, they'll be like, when I was in college, the first year I joined the Black Student Union, and the Asian Student Union wanted to like get together with them for a picnic, and most of the people did not want to join with the Asian Student Union. I was like, you guys are racist, you know, and I left. I was just like, I'm done with y'all.
Did you get kicked out?
No, I left. I was just like, I'm not coming back here. You guys are like, are you serious? But they're like, oh, I don't want to like have lunch with the Asian. So I was like, oh my God, you know, what is this?
Nephews, one Thanksgiving, the family had gathered for Thanksgiving, and one of my nephews, he starts ranting about white folks, and you know, it's all of the misery is because of white folks. They did it, right? And I said, hold on, let me ask you a question. What part of town do you live in? And he told me. I said, oh, so you live over in the hood, okay? And I said, I've been through the hood, and I see blight in the hood. I see trash all over the place, people not taking care of their property, houses burned down, houses boarded up. I see all of that over where you live. I said, you mean to tell me that some white boys from Owasso got a garbage truck one night, loaded it up with trash, came over into your neighborhood, and dumped all that trash in your neighborhood.
And burned some houses on the way.
And you didn't hear anything, right? So you looked out the window and saw them, but you didn't say anything. So the white boys, they came back again the next night and did the same thing on the street over from you. I said, you know what? I said, those are some bad white boys. I want to meet them. Because they're getting away with it, man. I want to know how they're rolling.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, yeah. And that's.
He looked at me and he said, "Oh, you don't have to go out there." I said, "You brought that silly crap up."
Yeah. Oh, now you can't defend it. You know, I mean, I just say I'm glad though to see people waking up from this mentality. Yeah. I want to ask you guys another question real fast before we start wrapping up. You're from Flint. You're in Flint, right?
Right.
How's the water situation there? What's going on with that?
It's still present. You just don't hear anything about it.
Do you have to filter your water? Like, do they fix the pipes?
This is what happened. They were back in 68, 69, somewhere in there. Flint needed to update the water plant. Well, they thought it was going to cost X and X amount of monies, right? So Detroit was building a water pipeline, and so Flint said they're going to tap into that water pipeline because it was cheaper to buy water from Detroit than it was to buy water, the make our water here, drinking water here. And so then Flint fell on hard times. You know, you've heard all the nonsense, and they decided, oh, we're going to reopen the water plant. And I'm like, okay, then aren't y'all going to upgrade it? And they're like, no. Well, why not? That's why they closed it, because it needed upgrading. Mm-hmm. So then once they started pumping the water and the old lead pipes started corroding, it was like, oh, well, then everybody down at Flint at the City Hall out there down there hiding under their dress and pointing fingers at Lansing. You know, he didn't come in here and crank that place up. You decided to do that. And guess what now? They're buying water from Detroit again. You know, which you won't hear on the news. But yeah, they're buying water from Detroit again. You know, after all that nonsense, all that money.
They never just fix the problem. So I mean, like, do you have to filter your water, or is it fine now? Like, for you? Like,
most people put, people that could put in filtered water, that could, and stuff. But they've replaced a lot of the lead pipes on, where they are, and they're still working on that. They're still, they didn't just drop it and let it.
Lead's messed up. It can lead to insanity, and it can lead to a lot of different.
Not good for the body. What they were doing also during that time, mm-hmm. they were still charging people, for their water bill, but people were getting water bills $600-700
a month.
Oh, that's like rent. That's heck no. Wow.
Yeah. Just for water, and you can't drink it.
Wow.
So
but crazy. Hey, Flint is another Democrat-controlled city.
Yeah. Oh, imagine that.
I remind them of that.
Surprise.
And you walk around the city and you complain about it, but you keep electing the same people.
You keep electing these folks.
That bag of den of vipers down there at City Hall, need to all be ran out of town on the rail.
They've been there, sitting there for years.
And these are holdovers from when General Motors was here. And General Motors was dropping $500 million into Flint every 6 months. Now that money's not here anymore. And yet they're still trying to do that,
As if.
They're still trying to chip off the money that ain't there. And so the city services get neglected. But yeah, the water situation has been amended. They're buying water from Detroit again, and they're pumping it out the river, And so, but you're not going to hear about that on the news because, Democrats only want to talk about what's bad.
Just Trump every day. Only thing that's going on in the world is Trump, evil Trump.
And you can go to the Chuck E. Cheese again. You don't have to go strapped.
Okay, I want to ask you one more last question. This is the question I usually close out with is, what is your dream and vision for America, and do you have hope for the future of America?
I think America, as it's always done, always been able to bounce back from all kinds of adversities. So we are a resilient people, always have been. What we see now, it's going to morph into something different in the future. There's always something different, but we always manage to bounce back from it. It's like Bobby said earlier, really, there's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah.
Nothing to be afraid of. As long as you know who you are in the scheme of things, you'll be okay. And America will be okay.
And
Donald Trump is not going to be here but
Right.
for another 6 years.
yeah, at the top.
So,
Yeah.
so he'll be gone, and America will still be here.
And I think a lot of people are freaking out because they don't know who they are. They're not secure in themselves. A lot of these people are freaking out, very insecure people.
Mhm.
Well, that's how we've been shaped over the past 50 years. You know,
Yeah.
I was, to me, it was just like I'm not going there. I don't want to go there. I don't want to be afraid. I remember, I was a kid, and this dog was chasing me, and I was like, I'm tired of running from this dog.
You're like literally. You're like, I'm literally
So I turned around and started running after him. The dog was like, whoa, he crazy. I'm tired of running from this dog every day I come home from school. So I turned around and started chasing the dog.
And don't be afraid to, when a Democrat gets up in your face, hey man, push back.
Yeah, push back.
Push back.
And why we started doing these videos, was because we both come to the same conclusion that a lot of people, still today, you might not go out and get in the trench and with your rifle and start shooting at the enemy.
And out there protesting,
you might not do
crazy
that.
in the
But
Yeah.
I don't know what it is now, but the military used to say for every man in the field, you need at least 4 to 8 guys behind him.
Yeah.
Be effective in what he's doing. I said, you do not have to grab a rifle.
Yeah.
Just get on the team.
It takes all types.
Yeah, and do the best you can do. Because,
Yeah.
you got generals will say you want a commander that you got to put a leash on.
Yeah.
You want a commander that's, I don't know, General. No, you want a commander you got, hey, look, dude, you can't do that.
Yeah, totally.
You're chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
See, what you do and what we do and what so many others do with our videos and placing them up on YouTube, it is giving a lot of other people courage
Yeah.
to start speaking out.
Yes, very true.
Yeah.
People did that for me, Even back when I still considered myself a liberal, I still listened to William F. Buckley, mainly because he was confident in what he said. Confidence always impressed me.
Yeah.
Always. If you can say what you got to say and you're confident about it, and and every time somebody comes at you, you have an answer ready for them, I find that impressive. And I listened to him even then. And might be somebody you don't know, maybe Tony Brown. Used to be Tony Brown's Journal.
Yes, I've seen clips of that show.
He had a
Yeah.
lot of influence on me, far as pushing back at the, you're black, you can't. You're black, you can't. My thing was always, well, why can't I?
I've been watching a lot of Thomas Sowell lately, and Edward Walter E. Williams. I mean,
and you listen to
I
these
love
guys.
Walter Williams.
yeah, me too. I like him a little more. He's a little more spunky.
Yeah.
He's no nonsense. He's just like, talk to the hand. But anyway, sorry, go on. Sorry, Bobby.
But no, you listen to these people, and you're like, okay, yeah, I know I'm supposed to be a Democrat, but I'm getting less and less comfortable with putting that tag on me. The last time I voted Democrat was 1980, and after that, it was like I was dying, because I'm like, when I look at it, wow, it's been 50 years, and none of the promises coming out of the civil rights movement, the Democrats are supported, even before they voted down every piece of civil rights legislation, everything that says, okay, here, Verstein, we're going to open this up and we're going to let you do the best you can do.
And we're not going to stand in your way.
And we're not going to stand in your way. And if you need some advice, hey, we right there. If the Democrats are so great, why aren't these inner city Democrat-run places meccas of economic prosperity?
Yeah.
Him and I can remember when we were kids, the corner store, in the black neighborhood was black owned. The corner store in the integrated in the neighborhood we grew up in was predominantly white. The main corner store, Brown's Cash Store, on the way to school, it was owned by a black guy. All the little neighborhood stores are owned by black. Now they're not. The shoe repair place was black. The cleaners was black. There was black enterprise everywhere. Then all of a sudden we get free, as they say, and all that disappears. And you telling me you're voting for people that done that to you? How can you support that? You know, and it's like, well, you're angry, and I don't know why you're so angry. I'm not angry. Telling you the truth means I'm angry. When you tell them the truth. And I've lost friends. I lost a friend.
We all have. Yeah, it's crazy. It's a definite paradigm shift.
Yeah, it is.
Where can we find you? Tell them your. I'll also put in links, but tell everybody your YouTube channel.
Well, it's the channel was under my name, James Dyson, so you can.
But how do they take? Is it James Dyson or Jay Dyson or what?
It's James.
James Dyson, one word. Yeah. Dyson Brothers.
That's it.
That's just it.
That's it.
We just kind of threw that up, and
Yeah.
We didn't give it a whole bunch of thought.
It's okay. We'll keep chugging at it, and it's fine. I just want people to lead you. One of the reasons too, I do these interviews, A, so I can connect with people, and B, people, we can get you more notoriety, more traffic to your channel. So anyway, I don't want to wrap it up, but I have to wrap it up.
Yeah, I know.
Because it's a pleasure. It was such a pleasure talking to you guys.
Well, thanks for having us.
Okay, don't hang up. I'm just going to sign off for you guys. Hold on. Okay, peace, truth, live, guys. I'll see you later. Bye. Mwah. Okay.
Bye.
Wait. All right.